Oh, and we got a few more people coming in from. Joe's here from Orlando, loud and clear. Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for joining me for the ride today. We'll just hang on a couple seconds. I see a couple people are logging on currently, but basically today is going to be it's going to be an eye opener, I hope, for you folks. It's going to be, hopefully, it's going to be a confidence builder, because a lot of times what I get from people on the residential side, and that is basically, who I want to benefit the most from this, right, is getting the confidence that the skills aren't that difficult from the residential side to the commercial side. And frankly, they aren't. There's a few missing pieces, and we're going to go over that. But I just, my point of our lesson today, and the point of this live stream, is that you guys understand how much you already do know, and how you're not that far off. There's a few critical skills, and frankly, without the skills, you won't be able to kind of bridge from the residential side to the commercial side. But we're going to show you exactly what those are and exactly what you need to do. So stay tuned. So we're going to be hopping on in just a second. All right. So I'm just going to pull up my slides here. Here we go. All right. I'll give everybody just another second to hop on, and we will get rocking and rolling. Okay, perfect. So, residential and commercial. A lot of people that are on the commercial side love to tell you that, oh, no, it's way too difficult, it's too time consuming to learn, you don't want to learn this, just go ahead and refer it to me. They'll tell you, oh no, it's too much math. They'll tell you got to spend years on the job learning it. If anybody has heard this ever from a commercial agent, please say I in the comments, right? If you've ever heard that, just hey, listen, this is way too complex, you wouldn't understand it, just send me the referral. Or if you've ever experienced a commercial agent that didn't want to help you, didn't want to answer your questions, didn't want to return your phone calls, if any of these sound familiar, go ahead and raise your hand and say I in the comments, right? This is something I speak to hundreds of agents a year, and they all have a very similar kind of thread throughout our conversations, and basically no one wants to teach you this stuff. No one wants to help you. And no one, Joe says we hear it a lot. Nobody wants to help along the way. And my thing is, there is enough, the pie is big enough for all of us to eat. Come from a place of abundance, help everyone you can, because it only just helps the next guy, and knowledge is the one thing you can give away, and you're no poorer for doing it, right? So that's really the point of why I'm teaching people and helping people, because I want everyone to expand their base of knowledge, and I want everyone to succeed and do better for themselves and for their families, right? So what I wanted to discuss was what I call the bridge method. Now, what is the bridge method? So if you can think of it metaphorically speaking, right? You have the land of commercial over here, you have the land of residential over here, okay? And you have a bridge, an old school bridge, right? Think of something you'd see out of, like, The Hobbit or something like that. Some old bridge in medieval England with moss growing over it and stuff. And if you ever see bridges, right? They have blocks, and there's always a couple stones. There's one stone at the top called the keystone, right? In this case, right, the keystone, if you take the keystone out of a bridge, it falls down, right? So in this case, I'm going to explain to you the things that you already know, right? And then I'm also going to explain the keystone components, because without that key stone, right, the entire arch, it will fall through, okay? So what I want to explain is this, right? And the title of tonight is the 5 skills you already have and the 3 you're missing to close commercial deals. So if you are haven't closed your first commercial transaction yet, but you have closed so little as 1 residential transaction, you already know the following, right? You already know, let me pull it up over here on the slideshow. We already know where to go to find leads, okay? Finding leads is the most important part. In fact, the reason why most businesses dry up, it's not because the people don't have skills. It's not because the people don't have knowledge. It's not because the people don't have drive. It's because there aren't enough new customers. Isn't enough either repeat customers, or isn't enough business going in the top of that kind of proverbial sales funnel? You put X in the top and something Y comes out the bottom, right? So that's the thing that you have to be most aware of, right? Is that when you are finding leads, or I should say, finding leads is the most important part of the business. And guess what? If you're already selling residential, you're already selling homes, you obviously know how to source leads. Whether you're buying them, whether you're working your sphere of influence, whether you're reaching out to previous clients, whether you're handing out 5 business cards a day, whether you're going to the PTA or your church or your volleyball team or your softball team or your kid's school, wherever that might be, numero uno skill that you already have because you're already in the business and already closing transactions, say on the residential side, is learning where to find leads. So that is numero uno, okay? And like I said, there are 5 skills that you already know that are part of what it takes to close a commercial transaction, okay? So the next step is going to be what happens after you get a lead. You got to follow up with it. Very few people, like never, ever say, I want to work with you. You get in your car, you go see something, the first place you show them, they sign a contract for, and you close the deal and you get paid. It just doesn't work that way, right? So what winds up happening is what we become experts at is a couple things, right? As real estate agents, we become experts at not only finding people but also following up with people. Okay, our job, in a sense, is to become what I call sorters. Right? So we need to not only go out and find and search for new leads, but we also have to learn how to sort through those leads. And sometimes people fall off, sometimes people, you don't hear from people back, but the most important thing is that you are able to attract leads, sort through them, and work with the right people, right? And part of that kind of, getting back in touch with those people once you've already met them, you've vetted them, and then staying in their lives, that's called follow-up, right? So we become masters at nurturing relationships and following up. Just those little touches, or the drip campaign, or you shoot them a text, or you send them out a survey of new properties that have hit the market, or it could be 1,000 different things. But that is the second most, or I should say, the second skill that you already know to close commercial deals. You are already doing it on the residential side because in order to be able to, the likelihood of you meeting somebody and doing business with them the first day you meet them is basically nothing, right? 0. So you need to learn how to follow up. So follow up is a very, very important part. If anybody has ever wondered, and tell me if this has ever happened to anyone. If they've ever gone out and they met somebody and they followed up and they followed up and they followed up and they followed up and they wanted to quit, and that last time you followed up with them, the last text you sent, the last phone call you made, the last email that you sent them, they were ready to go. They say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for reaching out. Were you just ready? I just had a conversation with my husband, my wife, my dog, my goldfish, my whatever. And it's so funny that you're calling because we're ready to buy or we're ready to sell or whatever. If anyone has ever experienced that, go ahead and comment I in the comments, right? And I think you'll see, that sometimes you just got to put in that last effort. Like if you're rowing a boat, like that last stroke. If you're swimming, like that last stroke, it gets you across the finish line. Sometimes we have to be very, very careful with that, but follow-up is also a very, very, very critical skill, because without it, if you just try to do business with the people that you're just going to meet with and try to do business on the first day, it ain't going to happen. You're not going to have a business, right? So that is the second critical skill that you already know, because in commercial, there's a certain sequence of events, and that's number 2 event for us, right? And Joe says I. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just send just that last ditch, they call it like a Hail Mary pass. You just throw it and see what happens. And sure enough, the people are ready to go. Thank you so much for reaching out. Awesome, great, let's put it on the market tomorrow. Oh, great, let's go. I finally want to put an offer on that house we saw, whatever it might be. Okay? So that's item number 2. So that's step number 2 of the 5 that you guys already know. Okay? Step 3. I was just talking to an agent I know, and we were talking about the difference between residential contracts and commercial contracts. And guess what? There isn't a huge bit of difference. In fact, in certain states, I always recommend, whether you're on the residential side or the commercial side, that if your local MLS or your state board of realtors has a boilerplate form, be sure to use it. I'll tell you why. The reason why is you want Every other agent knows what it looks like. Every other attorney knows what it looks like. Most buyers and sellers are already familiar because if they either bought a house or sold a house or a commercial property, whatever it might be, they're already familiar with it. So it's very, very good idea to understand to use those documents. That being said, writing up contracts is step number 3 in things that you already know how to do. It's just a question of learning the commercial version of it, right? And like I said, if you're using the MLS version or the local board, your state board of realtors version, use the same for the commercial side, right? So there isn't just much difference. There's a few clauses that might be different. Certain things might be written in terms of inspections or due diligence, but at the end of the day, step 3 is learn. You already know how to write contracts. So you find a lead, you follow up a lead, you find them what they want, and then you wind up writing up a contract. You already know how to do that. So at the end of the day, make sure that you're doing these things in the correct order. Obviously, if you're closing deals, you know how to do it. So if you're doing them in the right order, then after you get something written up and you put it under contract, then you have to deal with the inspections. Guess what? Same exact process happens in commercial. You already know how to deal with coordinating home inspectors, and maybe property inspectors, and maybe coordinating appraisers. All these skills are things that we're already doing, right? As a residential agent, it doesn't matter whether you're letting the termite guy in, or you're letting the banker or from the appraiser for the bank in, or what have you. It's all the same thing. So one thing to keep in mind is that right there is 4 steps of the 8 that you need to close a commercial contract that you already know. So hopefully you're starting to see, wait a minute, okay, like this is like if you're looking at that bridge like we talked about, you got half the bridge there. You're already halfway there, right? And so, like I mentioned, there's a few key parts that are basically the keystone, but we'll keep going with that. So to review, you already know how to find leads, follow up leads, put properties under contract, coordinate inspections. We're going to skip over a couple pieces, right? And then we're going to go straight to closing the contract. Making sure everyone has everything they need on closing day, what it takes to close the transaction, make sure everything comes together and you cross the finish line, and more importantly, get paid. So if you're closing residential transactions already, you already know how to do this. You already know how to get to the finish line, collect your check, and move on to the next happy customer, right? So that is step number 5. So if you think about it, you guys are 5/8 of the way there to selling commercial properties because the process is very, very similar. Finding leads, it's the same process. You're just going to find them in a different location. Following up, same process. You're still staying in people's lives, staying in front of them, learning how to reach out and touch them on a regular basis. Writing up contracts, same process. You just have to find a different form, and like I said, use the boilerplate form that your local MLS or your state board of realtors has. Coordinating inspections, same thing. There's one additional piece, and that's having an environmental inspector come in, but you're just coordinating with inspectors. It's not that big of a deal. And closing transactions, very, very similar. Just making sure all the paperwork and all the right people have all the right documents and everything is sent to the right people at the right times, so that when closing day comes, it's a smooth closing, right? So those are the 5 steps that you already know, but there's 3 that are missing. Okay, so like I said, that old medieval bridge, like the old arc, right? You got that keystone, and that keystone is comprised of 3 separate skills or pieces of knowledge that you have to know, and without those, it'll be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to close a commercial transaction. What are they, you might ask? Well, the first thing, when you're trying to close a commercial deal, you have to have a game plan, right? You have to know, okay, if I'm looking for a restaurant for this person, you have to know about the type of property. You have to know about so in this case it would be a retail property, right? You have to know about the zoning, okay? You have to know about what building codes are necessary and what type of tenant, what kind of build out will be needed for this particular tenant. So there's foundational information on commercial real estate that you have to know in order to know whether you're putting the person in the right place or not, right? If you're looking for someone for a, for a warehouse for their distribution company, you need to know, okay, does this building have the right clear height? Does it have the right amount of overhead doors? Does it have the right column span and so forth? You have to know all these different things. So learning your foundations is critical. I mean critical. You can go really far without product information, but imagine trying to sell a car and not knowing what kind of engine it had in it, not knowing how to turn it on, not knowing how to open the doors, not knowing how to pop the hood. There's certain things you have to know. Product information in this case, it's understanding about the different property types. It's understanding about the foundational information of the different types of commercial properties. We cover 6 in the course that I teach. It's retail, multifamily, office, industrial, triple net, and then also commercial land. So you have to know there's nuances between the different ones, but once you learn it, you have it forever, and then you can always feel confident that you know what you need to know about the property type. So the first thing that's missing from that keystone is a foundation, right? It's I should say the commercial property foundations. The second thing that's missing is going to be valuation. Right. So in the first example, I said, maybe you're looking for a pizzeria for a friend of yours that's looking to expand and open a new location, or you're opening a warehouse for a distribution company. The next thing that you would say is, let's say you're dealing with an investor and they're looking for, let's say, an apartment building, a 20-unit apartment building. You have to understand valuation. Okay. The 2 different ways, there's actually 3 ways of valuing commercial real estate, right? Number 1 is how insurance companies look at it, and that's what's called replacement cost, right? So if a hurricane or a tornado came and knocked the building over and there was nothing left, just dirt, what would it cost to replace it? What would it cost to build it in today's dollars, right? That's one way. That's not something we really use in brokerage. We use 2 other ways of valuation, and one of them, you're going to be pleased to know, is the comparative sales, right? So when someone is an owner-user, they use the comparative sales approach, just like you do when you're pricing out a house or a condo or an apartment, what have you. So, but when it comes to investors who are purchasing an income stream, it's a different method of valuation, right? So you have to be able to understand the financials of a property, you have to understand the operating expenses, and then you have to be able to interpret the local market area cap rate. So when you're able to put all the pieces together, then you can understand the valuation. So remember that the missing pieces, foundations is one, commercial foundations. The second one is valuation. And finally, the third piece of that keystone, the piece that which everything falls apart if you don't have, is learning how to source buyers and sellers. Now, just like we talked about before, if you don't have new business, your business will fail. If you can't find people that are willing to sell, you can't find people that are willing to buy, you're going to run into trouble. You're not going to have enough business to sustain. On one hand, on the residential side, everybody that's walking down the street breathing air is a potential client. Why? Because everybody needs a roof over their head, right? Whether they need an apartment, a house, a condo, whatever it might be, you could rent them an apartment, you can sell them a condo, you can sell them a house, you can, whatever it might be, everybody needs a roof over their head. So the audience is much more broad. On the commercial side, there's only so many people that either are looking for investment properties or are looking for a place to run their business out of. So you need to know and be able to identify where to look for people that are looking to buy, looking to lease, right, properties. Or you have to be able to know under kind of which nooks and crannies you have to look for people that are looking to sell. Okay, so and that's a big part of what I do is I teach my students. This is where you look. This is where the most likely person is going to be located. This is where the most likely buyer is going to be located. And then you prospect to them, you reach out to them, and then there are a lot of different ways of staying in front of people and in touch with people that I go over in my course called CRE Basic Training. So to review everything from the very beginning, the land of residential is over here, the land of commercial is over here. We have a big bridge that bridges in between the 2 areas, right? And in between there are 8 steps along that bridge. Okay, step 1 is finding people that are looking to transact. Step 2 is following up with those people. Step 3 is writing up contracts once you find a property that they're interested in. Step 4 is coordinating inspections once you have that property under contract. Step 5, on the other end, is closing the transactions and coordinating everything and getting paid. Most importantly, that's why we do this. We don't do it for charity. So those are the 5 steps that you already know, and you are more than halfway to closing your next your first commercial transaction. The 3 that you're missing, and again, that keystone, if you picture a big medieval arch, that keystone that's at the top, it's based on understanding commercial valuation, understanding commercial foundations, and then understanding how to source buyers and sellers and investors of commercial properties. So, if any of this is of interest to you, and if you're in the group, Commercial Sales for Realtors, I would imagine you're always eager to learn more. Let me know. You can hit me up in the comments below, put interested in learning more. I have a 6-month coaching program where we would take you through and we teach you those missing parts. In fact, the course is designed around giving you a game plan and setting you up on your way to learn the appropriate commercial foundations, right? It's based around showing you how to value properties so that you can do it in your sleep with your eyes closed, off the top of your head, right? And then finally showing you how to source buyers, source sellers, and how to stay in front of them and put your business on autopilot so you can have repeat business month after month after month, year after year after year. If that is of interest to you, if you want to learn how to close your first or next commercial transaction and add that extra $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 to your current business, which can be done very easily on the commercial side, go ahead and reach out to me in the comments below, put interested, and I'll go ahead and reach out to you, and then we'll schedule a time for a strategy session, which I'll hop on the call with you, spend 10, 15 minutes, see if there's a way I can help you. All right? So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the direct message, and if you're interested in learning more about getting coached on these concepts and being able to close your first or next commercial transaction, go ahead and reach out. In the meantime, thanks for joining in. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.